Chapter 697 The Falling Tide of Undead. Careful, the whole of chaos might reflect our attacks with a stronger force, the mysterious man warned the group. We should be careful of the man standing on the mountain zombie, his aura. Hanji lifted his gaze and stared at the man. As Hanji mentioned, everyone here was an expert with sharp senses, and the man who had nullified all their attacks with a single spell had a formidable and mysterious aura, putting them on alert. They could smell danger from the man. Mo Fan was the closest to the mountain zombie. He was standing on the top of a signal tower, the bottom of which was destroyed. It was just tall enough for him to look at the man on the mountain zombie at the same height. The mountain zombie was no longer running. The all-powerful zombie seemed to be afraid of the man. Its body slowly knelt down with its head lowered. The group was completely dumbfounded upon seeing this, making the mountain zombie drop to its knees. Who could the person be, strong enough to force the mountain zombie, one of the strongest ruler-level creatures, to kneel? No wonder even an expert like Hanji was panicking. The mountain zombie turned around and carried the person toward the group. It seemed extremely willing to be the person's mount. As the creature approached them, the dim dawn light and the rain pouring onto the creature highlighted the outline of a man wearing a black battle robe. His aura was piercingly cold and stern. He glanced at the group of magicians, before looking at the inner city with a swaying golden barrier in the distance. Ancient king, the mysterious man shuddered. His gaze suddenly turned blank. Even Hanji was stunned. In the ancient drawings, the ancient king was indeed wearing a black battle robe when he passed away. The man's outfit perfectly resembled the emperor in the past. On top of that, even though the man was glancing down at the living humans, he did not have any living presence. "He's awakened," Zhu Meng said with a dispirited voice. The ancient king was awake. It was the end for everything. All living creatures would be turned into undead. The city that had survived over thousands of years would soon become an undead paradise. The mountain zombie came forward. The creature did not dare to unleash its previous overwhelming aura. It was not because of the severe injury under its throat, but it did not dare to act recklessly because of the man standing on it. Its feet stomped the ground heavily as it walked past the signal tower that Mo Fan was standing on, allowing Mo Fan to see the man's face clearly. He did not just see the side of his face. The man turned his head and stared right into Mo Fan's eyes. Chief military instructor. Mo Fan shivered. He could not believe what he saw. Zhang Kong. The face was none other than the chief military instructor, Zhang Kong. Mo Fan felt his heart crumbling. He could not explain the scene he was seeing before him. Zhang Kong was staring at Mo Fan, tall in his battle robe. It was hard to tell if he had recognized Mo Fan, or he was simply amused by Mo Fan's extraordinary demon presence. Suddenly, the man raised his hand. The whole of chaos that had absorbed everyone's attacks appeared in front of Mo Fan. Mo Fan subconsciously thought the man was going to attack him. His figure tensed as he prepared to defend himself from whatever was going to happen. However, the whole of chaos did not spit out the destructive energy that it absorbed previously. It opened up like an eerie door of space. 3 figures were pushed out from the spinning vortex. Lu Ru, Zhang Xiaohou, Su Xiaoluo. Mo Fan instantly recognized the 3 people. He leapt forward and grabbed 2 of them with his hands and bit Zhang Xiaohu's collar with his teeth. Using the mountain zombie's shoulder as a stepping stone, Mo Fan jumped back to the signal tower while holding the 3 people. The 3 youngsters had fallen unconscious while passing through the chaos vortex. Mo Fan placed them on the tower and shifted his gaze back to the man. However, Zhang Kong, who seemed like a totally different person, no longer had eye contact with Mo Fan. He turned around, only showing his back to the group. As he turned around, the mountain zombie too turned and walked in the opposite direction of the city, as if it was given some order. Thud, thud, thud. Each step that the mountain zombie took would produce a huge blast. On top of that, a troop among the undead army would sink into the ground every time the mountain zombie took a step. The undead in the city north were the first to withdraw. The majority of the undead army had the ability to move underground. The ocean of undead disappeared into the ground in just a few minutes. Judging from the pattern, it seemed like the whole undead army was moving into the distance following after the mountain zombie, or more accurately, the undead were following the man standing atop the mountain zombie. The footsteps sounded further away with each step. Half of the undead were gone. The spectacular withdrawal even postponed the arrival of dawn when their mass covered the rising sun in the distance. A while later, a phantom ruler appeared in the south. The phantom ruler seemed like it had yet to fully enjoy itself. It opened its enormous wings that were similar to those of a bat. The creature beat its wings, gliding across the golden barrier and headed north. An army of phantoms followed right behind the phantom ruler like stormy clouds. When they flew past the inner city above the golden barrier, the whole inner city was immersed in darkness. A few moments later, the clouds formed by countless phantoms had flown into the distance, returning the dim sunlight to the countless people in the city, many of whom had fainted from fright. Finally, the army of skeletons withdrew like a fading tide, too. Of the 8 undead rulers, 4 of them, including the mountain zombie, were still alive, and led their armies into the distance. Not a single one dared to stay or pose a threat to the inner city any longer, even though the golden barrier could collapse at any second. The black ocean gradually disappeared into the north. The ruined city was illuminated by sunlight that was gradually turning brighter, exposing the collapsed buildings, the destroyed streets, the broken bridges, and the areas that were beyond recognition. Only the inner city was preserved, along with countless people and its intact buildings and structures that had survived the calamity. However, it felt like everyone was completely worn out. Even after the inner city was soaked in sunlight for quite some time, the whole place was still deadly quiet. It took the people a long time before they realized that the calamity was over. Chapter 698 The Most Admired Person. We're alive. We're still alive. They are gone, the undead, not a single one left. We've won. We've won. The city was suddenly immersed in cheers. The dawnlight was fairly bright, but the gray clouds and rain remained, yet none of it mattered now. As long as the undead army was gone, the city would be safe, as they had all survived the calamity. The magicians on the wall fell to the ground feebly. The calamity had drained all their energy. They had all prepared to sacrifice their lives in the battle, yet they never thought they would actually survive until the end and witness the undead tide falling away. It was unbelievable, even they found it hard to believe what they had seen. It felt like the tide brought by a great storm was about to devour them, and it was obvious that the rain would continue to fall still, but the black tide suddenly fell away. The water level quickly dropped to their feet and withdrew from the little island they were on. Many people were lying on the ground, looking up into the sky. The raindrops fell on their face felt rather hot, as they could not extinguish the excitement and joy in their hearts. The people were hugging one another. Cries of relief after surviving the calamity echoed in the city, regardless if they knew one another. The magicians outside the city were returning. Some stood still on the spacious ground covered in debris. It took them a while to collect their thoughts. Mo Fan was still standing on the slanting signal tower. His eyes were staring into the north. The runes covering his body had disappeared. The silver hair returned to his usual black. The wild lightning and fire were withdrawn deep into his soul. The fight had ended, thus it was time for the demon deep in his soul to go back to sleep. Otherwise, the young man would turn into an old man fairly quickly. Where are we? Zhang Xiaohou was the first to wake up, shaking his dizzy head heavily. He immediately saw Mo Fan sitting on the edge of the signal tower. His face was covered with joy, and he went up and hugged him, at a loss of words. Mo Fan had yet to recover from the cold bloodiness of the demon element, but when he saw Zhang Xiaohou bursting into tears like his younger brother, he could not help but pat him on the head. After some time, Zhang Xiaohou finally calmed down. Seeing Mo Fan kept staring into the north, he asked, "Did you see him?" "He was always looking after us, right?" asked Mo Fan. There were still many things that they could not explain in the calamity, as it felt like someone was opposing the Black Vatican behind the scenes too. However, Mo Fan did not have the chance to see him until the very last moment. He has always been looking after us." Zhang Xiaohou turned around, glancing at the city that was immersed in cheers, and the people that were surrounding Han Ji, Zhu Meng, Du Xiao, and the mysterious man as they returned to the city. The truth was, Han Ji, Zhu Meng, Du Xiao, and the mysterious man had never seen Zhang Kong before, so they did not recognize him. "Is he considered dead?" asked Mo Fan. The moment when Zhang Kong turned around, Mo Fan suddenly felt the air around him turn sour. Even his throat was stuck. He could not find the words even when there were many things he wanted to say. Mo Fan could easily guess what had happened at the altar without Zhang Xiaohu's explanation. However, was he really gone like that? Was the man who he respected the most still alive? Was that the ancient king, or Zhang Kong? For some reason, Mo Fan's thoughts were filled with the past. He remembered the extremely difficult mission that the chief military instructor gave them during the training. He remembered how he was shamelessly trying to become Mo Fan's sworn brother at the Mu family's villa. The scene he would never forget, when he led his subordinates to fight the Darkwing Wolf. During the incident at Jilin City, he had traveled a great distance to save him too. He was their instructor at their training, but he was more like a mentor on the path of becoming a magician. He did not teach him a single spell, but he had used his actions to teach him how to become a reliable man. The good thing is, we didn't let him down in this battle against the Black Vatican, Mo Fan sighed. He slowly withdrew his gaze. Zhang Xiaohou nodded heavily. They were chief military instructor Zhang Kong's students, and they would always be. The city might have no clue who the person who had driven the undead army away was, but they would forever remember him. Meanwhile, the Black Vatican had carefully planned their conspiracy, yet they never expected that the commander of Bo City that they had completely disregarded would be the one disrupting their festival. Test run? The unforgivable sin the Black Vatican had committed in Bo City had trained people like Mo Fan, Zhang Xiaohou, Xu Jiaoting, and Zhang Kong, who would give all they had to fight against the Black Vatican, even if it meant sacrificing their lives. The Black Vatican had brought fear and death to the world, yet to those that had survived the calamities, all they had sown was an inextinguishable fury in their hearts. A little Bo City had already trained so many people, let alone the ancient capital that had existed for thousands of years. Many brave ones among the survivors would step forward. The wild ambition of the Black Vatican to bring chaos upon the world would not stand a chance against the determination of the people who wanted to eradicate the evil organization. The seeds had been planted, watered with the sad tears of those who had lost their loved ones. They would surely blossom one day. On the clock tower, Great Deacon Hu Jin still could not believe what had just happened as he hung there in the rain. The whole city was celebrating, only he looked worse than a dead man. The festival was gone, implying that he would no longer be sent to paradise. His soul would fall into the burning pot together with the dark beast monsters and become an ugly slave for the rest of his life. Ta, 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 ta. It was the sound of heels hitting the concrete. The clock tower was now empty. He did not dare to breathe when he heard the footsteps. However, it seemed like there were two people walking up the stairs. "Why did you call me here?" said a woman. "I believe there's no one here. I thought we were both going to die. Either way, there's something I have wanted to tell you since a long time ago. About 10 years ago, when we first met here, you were still a hunter master. I know, I'm not worthy of you. I'm still an ordinary imperial magician after 10 years. But for the past 10 years, you've always been the most perfect woman in my heart," said a man. "Is that all you have to say?" The woman's voice sounded rather cold. "Yeah, I'm not hoping that you would accept me, but I still wanted to tell you my feelings," said the man firmly. "Normally, I would accept everyone who's willing to submit to me, but unfortunately, you've spoken this nonsense to me when I'm in my worst mood. I won't accept your feelings, but I don't mind accepting your heart," said the woman. "What did you say?" "Oh!" The man's voice turned into a painful scream in the middle of her words. The clock tower suddenly fell silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Chapter 699 Mo Fan, the Precious Gem. He was hanging at the same spot, his face completely twisted. Not long after, he heard the same sound of heels tapping on the bricks. Each felt like a sharp blade was stabbing his heart as they came closer. Senior Salon. He wanted to kneel on the ground, but he was unable to do so. The woman's right hand was dripping with blood, and holding a fresh human heart. It was extremely horrifying. She lifted her cold gaze, staring at Great Deacon Hu Jin hanging before her. He felt like the cold gaze had simply shattered his soul. You helped that kid to enroll in a magic school? Yes, no. He was at a loss for words. You've brought up such a monstrous enemy for our Vatican, who even ruined my festival. I should be thankful to you. No, don't, please don't, no. Oh! An utterly forlorn cry echoed from the ancient clock tower, like someone's soul was being torn into pieces. The cry lingered in the air for some time. Meanwhile, the people below the clock tower were cheering and celebrating. It looked like a fairly exciting festival was happening. When the tide of undead fell away, backup and support finally arrived. Countless helicopters were circling in the sky, bringing supplies to the city. Construction crews came in bulk and started rebuilding. However, in order to prevent the undead from attacking again, they first built temporary places within 3 kilometers of the city walls to settle the people. The rain finally stopped on the 3rd day. The survivors were settled in the temporary buildings enclosed by tall walls, making them at least look safer on the surface. Unlike Bo City, the city had coexisted with the undead for a long time. It was rich with resources, and it had existed for thousands of years. Even the greatest storm had failed to destroy it. The city would only be rebuilt after it was torn down, as most people were unwilling to abandon their property. The reconstruction of the city did not take as long as the people had expected, since half of the rebuilding was done by machinery, while the builders were in charge of the bridges, roads, streets, and buildings. Each building would only require a few earth magicians. The areas within 3 kilometers from the inner city were rebuilt first. They would slowly expand out from there. As long as the heart was still there, the ancient capital would slowly rejuvenate. Humans were not as fragile as they had imagined. Despite the sorrow they had been through, those who survived still had to keep moving forward. The meeting room in the bell tower. Some fruit that was just brought to the city was placed on the meeting table. They looked fairly juicy. They must have been sent here via air transport from the south. Not many people were seated at the meeting table, but they included Du Xiao, Zhu Meng, Han Ji, the mysterious man, and Yao Nan. I've looked many places, but I still can't find Mo Fan, said the mysterious man. The guy doesn't seem like a kid who is unwilling to leave his name behind after doing a good deed, teased Zhu Meng. It's all thanks to him. Who would have thought, the demon element? Tisk tisk, he must be the only person who can support the demon element. I've called you all here to discuss what we're going to do with Mo Fan, said Han Ji. The demon element is banned by the magic associations of the 5 continents. I've asked Mo Fan. He doesn't want to be the white mouse, so I guess we'll try our best to conceal the truth, Zhu Meng expressed his thoughts. A superior from the military has contacted me. He told me that Demon Mo Fan was the deathbringer of Donjing Lake that once stirred up great chaos in Be City, said the mysterious man. Which superior? Asked Zhu Meng immediately. Must be the one in charge of the Southern Military District. He told us that it's best not to let the magic associations of the 5 continents know about Mo Fan, said the mysterious man. Mo Fan wants us to keep it a secret, and the military and the Magic Association have no intention to make it public either, but regarding the Hunter Union, Du Xiao, can you stop Chu Jia and the others from spreading it? Asked Zhu Meng. Du Xiao shook his head. He was a senior hunter, but the elders were higher ranked than him. He had no way of sealing their mouths. Don't worry about the Hunter Union. Some old man must know about it, and Mo Fan is working in his shop. With his help, the information won't spread to somewhere it's not supposed to, said Yao Nan. I almost forgot about that. Yao Nan, I'll let you contact the Clearsky Hunter Agency, said Du Xiao. All right, the military, Hunter Union, and Magic Association should be able to keep it a secret. After all, only a few of us have seen him using the demon element. We should be fine. As for Mo Fan's friends, They won't have any problem keeping it a secret, either. Hanji nodded. By the way, Salin must have learned about the demon element too. Will he possibly? Blurted out the mysterious man as a thought crossed his mind. Salin must be trying his best to leave our country now. He was too exposed this time. The Enforcement Union will be uprooting all his remaining underlings. The highest ranks of the Enforcement Union is going to hunt him down. Do you think he has time to waste on Mo Fan? Hanji smiled. That guy tried to destroy the ancient capital by relying on the ancient king's kingdom of undead to crown himself the god of death. I bet he's running away like a dog now. Once we find out all the blue deacons and uproot those that are hiding, in half a month, Salin will just be a general without an army. By the way, Mo Fan is truly the Black Vatican's nemesis. They failed to acquire the underground holy spring from Bo City because of Mo Fan, and at the Magic City, they were still trying to steal the underground holy spring, but they completely lost everything there. This time, Mo Fan has disrupted their festival too, giving us the chance to get rid of the Black Vatican's influence in the country. Splendid. Zhu Meng burst out laughing. Yeah, the kid is our secret weapon against the Black Vatican. His demon element is already this impressive at his current level. Once his cultivation improves further, he can simply infiltrate the Black Vatican's main headquarters and erase them from the world, said the mysterious man excitedly. The Black Vatican was basically the world's biggest malignant tumor. Many people would burst into tears the day it was finally removed. Then we should take good care of this gem, Hanji smiled too. Should we provide assistance so that it's easier for him to grow? No. That's not a smart choice. If we help him, his cultivation might stop at the advanced level. I believe you all know that we didn't reach our level by living like a prince, nor is it because we are under outstanding protection. Du Xiao immediately disagreed with the suggestion. The people that attended the meeting had more than enough resources to train Mo Fan into an expert, yet it would only spoil him. Mo Fan was a gem that had grown in the wild. They should just let him be. Every strong magician had walked the path on their own. But we can't just let him be without keeping an eye on him. Hanji was not so carefree. I have a good idea, Zhu Meng laughed. Chapter 700 Secluded Cultivation in Mount Hua. Over 130 kilometers away from the ancient capital, a steep mountain stood tall with a formidable aura. People could feel a great pressure standing at the foot of it. The areas in the south were densely populated and had lots of mountains that were connected together by a relatively flat mountain range. In comparison, the mountains here were all towering and steep, resulting in a totally different atmosphere. The calamity of the ancient capital did not spread to Mount Hua. The only unfortunate thing was the cable car had stopped operating. Mo Fan had wondered if the famous 5 sacred mountains of Taoism were crawling with demon creatures in this world, but it turned out that they were still famous sightseeing attractions. Apart from a small number of workers, Mo Fan basically had all of Mount Hua to himself. It did not matter if the cable car was not working. Mo Fan's swift star wolf was outstanding at climbing mountains and crossing ridges. The creature was able to sprint at its full speed even when both sides of the path consisted of steep cliffs. It was extremely thrilling. The paths on the mountains were narrow, with limited footholds, and perfectly straight cliffs leading to bottomless abyss on both sides. Whenever the wind swept past, it felt like they could fall from the cliffs at any second. The swift star wolf seemed to be enjoying the thrill of sprinting on the steep cliffs. He leapt from the steps straight to the top of a ridge the size of a table. He stood above the clouds and scanned his surroundings. Green vines and pine trees were dangling from the mountain walls. As the swift star wolf landed on the peak, pieces of rock dropped from the cliff into an endless fall. A perfect place to cultivate and become an immortal, Mo Fan lifted his gaze and discovered a temple among the steep cliffs. As he thought, his cultivation declined after using the power of demon element. Almost every element had dropped a level, leaving Mo Fan with tearless sobs. He had deranked twice in the intermediate level. Luckily, he managed to collect an enormous supply of soul remnants and soul essences when he was annihilating the undead army. The demon that had granted him power had come to demand souls from him. These soul remnants and soul essences were all given to it as sacrifices. At least he did not end up a caveman like before, when he was still at Donjing Lake, killing mindlessly while living in the wild. To explain it scientifically, it was simply returning what he had borrowed. The enormous power that Mo Fan obtained after breaking through to the advanced level was similar to a huge loan he had borrowed from the bank. He was still obligated to pay the money back after he spent all of it. Therefore, the soul remnants and soul essences that the little loach pendant collected from the undead he slaughtered were all used to pay back the loan. It was impossible to rely on the demon element to save up soul essences. Lucky for him, there were countless undead for him to kill. Otherwise, he would have had to live like a caveman for a while to pay back the loan, or the demon bank would take away his lifespan as the penalty. Mo Fan was well prepared this time, so the side effects were not as troublesome, although he was about to go crazy after learning that his cultivation had deteriorated again. Han Ji had granted Mo Fan some resources so he could recover his cultivation in the shortest time possible, hence why Mo Fan was sent here to Mount Hua, just so he could focus on his cultivation without being distracted by matters of the mundane world. It would not take him much time to get his cultivation back if he was diligent. The only fortunate thing was, his fire galaxy was still there. It did not degrade back into the fire nebula because his rank dropped. However, the fire galaxy looked extremely dim, like a pool of dead water. Han Ji told Mo Fan that it was still possible to recover the advanced fire galaxy if he cultivated in time. In order to prevent himself from falling back to the intermediate level, Mo Fan had decided to go all out to recover his cultivation. Ling! Little Flame Bell lay on Mo Fan's head. She seemed to be enjoying the spectacular scenery around her. She did not forget the dreadful experience in the space of death. As such, she had expressed her determination to work harder and become a good daughter that could defeat all the bad guys for her daddy. Mo Fan chuckled when he heard the solemn vow made by Little Flame Bell. He suddenly recalled the fiery sorceress soul shadow he saw when he demonized and immediately had great anticipation. He could not wait to see Little Flame Bell's formidable power when she reached the adult phase. Let's work hard together. Oh woo! Swift Star Wolf cleared his throat and howled just to remind the two of his presence. The creature's loud call echoed among the steep cliffs of Mount Hua. After Mo Fan went into seclusion, the ancient capital had finished reconstructing. In the past thousands of years, there would be undead roaming outside the ancient capital at night. Only magicians that were strong enough were capable of moving outside at night. But after the calamity, not a single undead was seen within a few hundred kilometers of the city. It was not that the undead had completely disappeared, but they simply stayed in their catacombs and tombs obediently, and remained indoors. Many factions were greatly astounded by the phenomenon. In the past, the undead of the ancient capital too had behaved well and remained in their own territory. However, after a certain dynasty, the undead started leaving their territory to infringe on human lands. They were being restricted. The resurrection of the ancient king was supposed to be a disaster, yet to everyone's surprise, it felt like the undead were now under his control, forced to abide by his rules. It was definitely good news for the ancient capital. The place was famous because of the undead, but if the undead were completely wiped out, many businesses that relied on the undead would come to a halt and destroy the economy. However, if the undead went out of control, it would place the city in grave danger. As long as the order was maintained, in which the undead and humans remained in their respective areas, it would bring perfect balance and real peace to the ancient capital. After all, with the undead around, the demon creatures of the Kindling Mountains would not dare to infiltrate their lands. The ancient capital returned to its old bustling life. Time flowed faster when life was busier. Spring came after the snowy season. The ancient capital was restored to its initial appearance before the new year. The lives that were lost were remembered with an empty wine cup. The people moved forward to celebrate the hard-earned new year. Such a pity, Mo Fan is still training hard in the temple on Mount Hua in the snow. I bet he won't leave until he recovers his cultivation. Let's use this empty cup to represent him. Everyone, cheers, said Wang Sanpang with high spirits. Ha ha ha, I never expected to spend my New Year's here. Either way, it's great to be alive, said Zhang Xiaohou. Yeah, how lucky are we to survive 2 great calamities, agreed Zhao Kunsen. Let's give Mo Fan a toast, come. Hey, put Mo Fan's picture on your iPad and set it straight. That's right, let's send him our regards. Should we light up 3 incense sticks, too? Put his photo on grayscale.